Naturally, we all want to age in place in our homes for as long as we possibly can. But do you realize that it really takes a village to address wellness holistically? So, if you want to know more about this, you know what? Stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. Yes, sometimes it does take a village to accomplish a task. And my guest today is Howard Stein. He's the owner operator of Home Helpers of Monmouth County, and we're going to talk about that today. So welcome, Howard.
Thanks so much, Andre. I'm really happy to be here. It's always fun to talk with you.
It's always fun to talk with you. And I'm just worried we're going to have too much fun today. That's all. That's a good problem. So why don't you just share with everyone a little bit about you, your organization, and your role there before we kind of get into our conversation.
Sure. So I'm the owner operator of Home Helpers Home Care, as you said. Home Helpers is a private duty home care agency serving the Monmouth County area. Our office is in Freehold. Before I started Home Helpers, I came from a healthcare background in Aetna. I worked with Aetna on care management and communications. That's really where I got to learn a lot about population health and care management, a lot of technology. Also, that was the focus of my job. So all those tools and all the tools that are required to actually deliver care. So that's where all that kind of knowledge came from. And then, we had the opportunity to do something in our community. And I really came to this with two goals. One was to provide the best care that we could in our community. And two was to create 100 jobs. Those were the set kind of goals that we had when we started the business. So that is something that we continue to drive towards.
That's interesting. That second goal about creating the jobs. I like that. Well, Howard, you are a very community-minded kind of guy, and I have a lot of admiration for that because really SCAN is all about resources, community resources, and we want to know the things that are happening in our community. So, once again, why we do FYI is to make people aware of resources, because if you don't know what they are and how to access them, resources have zero value, correct?
Correct. And that's why we love SCAN also, right? Because there is the means for us to connect to a broader community. And we become part of your community, which is, an amazing thing. And we love that. And we love to participate in those events that support seniors in our community with you.
And, I also feel that when you're supporting seniors, and that obviously is our mission, you're supporting a whole family. It's not just, the senior person. When you're helping a senior, you're helping a family. And, not everyone does have the privilege of getting old enough to become a senior. So when you get there, we want to make sure that all the resources that are available. And obviously you and a place like Home Helpers is a huge community resource for everyone. So let's talk about this idea of a care plan. And maybe you could explain to me even, I'm always learning, from my guests as well. What do we mean by a care plan?
So a care plan is something that we use to manage the activities that we do when we're in someone's home who we provide care for. And the care plan's genesis starts at the initial assessment that our nurse actually does. And it's a fairly thorough assessment. It takes about an hour and a half. We want to get all the medical history. We want to get things like medications, right? To really kind of understand the medical background, right? Also, things that we want to know are what are your health and wellness goals, right? And then we also need to know kind of what are the core things that you need the most help with. And that comes in the form of ADLs and So that, those are the activities of daily living,
Right.
right?
Right.
Those are kind of core things, that you need to do. And we want to make sure that that plan is comprehensive, right? And then that plan covers all of the things that you would like that caregiver to do with you on a regular basis. And that is how we kind of monitor, measure, and then reevaluate. And there's a little bit of art and science here, right? Some of it
Yeah.
has to do with accreditation standards, right? So the accreditation standards actually dictate how we do this. But then there's also, ways that we want to provide enhanced service and really make sure that we have that great communication between the family, the patient, the caregiver, and kind of the clinical oversight, right? That's how we ensure that good care is actually provided. And I'll kind of wrap it around the notion that what happens in a licensed and insured accredited agency is that every 30 days, that clinical supervisor, that nurse is going to call that patient, check
Mm-hmm.
in, see how they're doing. Every 60 days, we're coming in person, we're looking at the care plan, we're seeing what's been done, we're asking if there are any changes, right? That's the essence of kind of the care plan and the cadence around the care plan. A care plan ultimately gets reevaluated every 6 months. But if you think about kind of a golden document, right, of care, that's what it is. That's what our defined roadmap is. That's what where our goals are. And whether it's a rehabilitation, right? So let's
Right.
say you broke
Yeah.
a hip and you need temporary care, right? So there would be goals around getting you back to independence. Or if you have more of a longer term care need, just physically not able to walk, maybe you can't shower, right? So then there would be different goals, different activities that we would put into that plan to ensure that those daily needs are met, and then we address whatever longer term health goals there are.
So the care plan is really a very dynamic situation because hopefully, as you're coming into someone's home and you're caring for them, they're improving and they're attaining those goals. And it's like with any luck, you almost put yourself out of business with that customer because you've done such a good job.
That's right. And it is dynamic. And that is
Yeah.
how we talk about it, right? Because,
Well, things
it's not
change. They
it's not
always
a
change.
flat line. Health
Yeah.
is up, sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down, right? And you have to adjust. That's why those accreditation standards are really important. And I'll keep, you'll probably in this conversation hear me going back to them, but that's where the clinical oversight, the 30-day calls, the 60-day visits. That's why the training for a good caregiver is essential, because when that caregiver is in that person's home, right, any observations that they make can actually prevent a hospitalization, can actually prevent a medical occurrence in some cases from occurring. I can't tell you how
Right.
many times we've, prevented serious emergencies through this observation, calling into the nurse, and then taking immediate action. We've had so many occurrences of UTIs where we've really identified that early enough so it didn't create a situation, or situations of stroke and heart attack. Those are a lot more serious, right, and require immediate need. But if you have a wonderful caregiver that's trained to see these kinds
Yes.
of things, right, immediate action can actually have some significant impact in the overall occurrence.
You know, Howard, to point out something, it's obvious to me as I'm listening to you, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway. So you're describing all the reasons why, a trained person who has those powers of observation, because they know what to look for. They know that if they see something, they have to escalate the situation. But often people think that I'll just get, a friend will help me or a family member, bring them in the house and watch over my mom or whoever it is. But they're not necessarily trained at all to, with these heightened powers of observation, to know when something is wrong, to know when something has to go to the next level. So I feel like it's all the more reason to to work with a trained professional who really has, a next level to go to, like home helpers, as opposed
Yeah.
to just somebody who a young person, or we someone who has no accreditation whatsoever. I
Right.
feel like
And so
people
there's
think
there's
they're
kind of
saving money, but they're not.
yes. And so there's kind of two thoughts there. The first is, you get that family member to come in and help. That's always the best option. But yeah, they may not have some of the skills required. They may not have some of the knowledge required, but that, depending on the situation, that could be good enough. A lot of times people go out and hire a private. Now, that could be an experienced person. They may know, it may even be a licensed person, right?
Yeah.
But when they're independent, they don't come with the nurse, right? They don't come with
The whole
insurance,
next level.
right? They don't come with insurance. They don't come with all of the power of a organization to support that care plan, right? They won't have a care plan, right? So I think you just people need to understand that when they make that choice, yes, sometimes it's only a financial decision, but there are, it comes, cheap sometimes isn't always better, and you really have to assess what it is that you need. And I actually wanted to go back and just address one thing that you said, because early on, you talked a little bit about family, right? So you have the patient and the family. What we provide for the family is peace of mind,
Yes.
right? And so it's not, it's usually it's about that care. A lot of times it's about peace of mind for the family, right? Maybe they're um, out of state, or maybe they have their own family and their job and they just can't focus on mom all the time, right? But mom has a need. Um, that peace of mind for families in many cases, is such
Well,
a
that's
relief on
priceless.
them.
Peace of mind is
Yes.
priceless.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that in there because I think
Yeah.
that that's really an important part of the value proposition that we provide as well.
Well, we talked about addressing wellness in a very holistic method, and that's again the power of an organization. An organization like Home Helpers, you've got other partners that you work with, so that if something isn't right, when you've got a nurse, you've got access to a second step. So let's kind of talk a little bit about this whole idea of the interdisciplinary, if I can say that correctly, interdisciplinary team, because it does take a village. I firmly believe that. One person just doesn't do it. And that, again, that's why if you just hire an independent caregiver, they don't come with that whole village necessarily.
No, and to gather that village takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And Andrea, you know me, I'm out there all the time, and that's
Yes.
with purpose, right? So I am
Accumulating your
touring,
village. Yes.
I'm accumulating my village, and whether that's going to an assisted living or going to a skilled nursing facility or meeting someone in a hospital, right? All of those pieces are critical to ensure that when a situation arises for one of my clients, that I have resources available to help them. And this is really when we want to be a concierge to help for any given situation that a patient may have. Some of the most common types of scenarios that we work with our clients on are things like something simple, maybe like podiatry, right? That's part of, especially if you have diabetes or, for our seniors, the nails can be, tricky to take care of. So to have that podiatrist that we know, that we work with all the time, that comes to their home,
Right.
right, is a value add. Working with PTOT, that's probably the most common referral that we make. And again, that's where a common care plan is really, really important. And it's helpful if you know how that other entity works. When you start seeing these programs over and over again, we really understand how those components work and we can support them even better, right? So those are just two examples of partners that we work with that can improve the overall care plan and wellness of our clients.
That's the whole point. I think that if you're working with home helpers, if you're working with someone who you have faith in, you trust their judgment, then the whole idea is that when you refer someone, you're referring a trusted partner. I can feel good knowing, all right, well, if Howard referred me, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. And that's just part of the whole, peace of mind and feeling good about who you're working with.
Yeah, and it's not only that, but I'm also following up with my partner as well on that case, right? Because it's tied together, right? It's joined because one, I made that referral. Two, I have a vested interest in that patient's wellness, and we want to make sure that they get the same level of service that they've grown to love from us.
And I'm just going to remind everyone who's listening, we'll have all of Howard's info in the description. If you want to be able to reach out to Howard at Home Helpers, we'll make it easy for you so you can find him, because clearly he's in the know. Well, I like that because, before I worked at SCAN, I would say I didn't understand how all of these different organizations, I feel like it's necessary for everyone to work together because, you might not be able to help someone. So then you are in a position to know, well, you know what, it's not right for home helpers, but this is the organization you need to go to. And other people are all doing the same. So you put yourself in the hands of someone that you trust, they're going to do right by you. I mean, that peace of mind it's just worth everything because yeah, people do have to go to work. We still have the sandwich generation. You're worried about a parent at home. You want to keep them at home, but never feel badly that you're not necessarily going to quit your job. But the trick is to find an organization that, really gets it, that knows that they know what to do, like home helpers.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's all different stages of when these conversations also need to occur, right? Because if you think about like kind of that first transition from fully independent to needing a little bit of help, right? That's one level of conversation.
Yeah, and
But
that's a tough one even
imagine the
right
other,
there.
right? But
Yeah.
imagine the other end of the spectrum. And, if you have an emergency when you get into a significant level of care, how do you coordinate that? That becomes a major event for the whole family, right? And you need all those resources to kind of help you through that. And we want to be a solution for families that actually, if that situation comes up, that they need it. And the reality from our family was, that we've had to go through this process several times, right? And there were
Yeah.
varied degrees of care that was provided. It was very eye-opening for me to see what good care actually can do for someone. And we were very fortunate to come across a few good caregivers, and the contrast in the results is actually greatly different,
Well,
right?
that makes sense.
It's greatly different. And so that that goes back to the original objective, right? Which is being able to provide the best level of care that we can. So seeing what that does, kind of understanding what compassion, what level of expertise, what type of effort is required, seeing that myself enabled me to come into Home Helpers and have a set of objectives for us to reach for so that we can deliver that to our clients to get those kind of results. And that's core to our mission.
So at SCAN, we're all about community resources, bringing people together, introducing our trusted partners to the community, because we'll always say you never want to be making a major decision in a time of crisis. As that's you're never going to make a good decision in a crisis. So I say to everyone, all right, well, you're listening today, you may not need this kind of assistance from Home Helpers at this point, but we don't know what the future holds. You might have a relative or another friend who needs this kind of service. And this way you get to meet Howard, you get to hear a little bit about his philosophy. So that if the time comes up for you, you can say, all right, I remember watching FYI and I met Howard, and okay, I'm not going to have a crisis. I'm just going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call the number. And for me, that's my goal here, to share valuable resources with people so that they can make a really good decision and not have a crisis. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and we really appreciate that. And I think that's one of the biggest values that SCAN actually
Yeah.
provides is those kinds of education. It also brings all of the providers together. So I can't tell you how many wonderful providers I've also met through SCAN, right? I mean, what did you have, like 50, 60 vendors at
Right.
at your fashion show? And there was a
Yeah.
lot of people
At our
that
we had, I'm going to say it was about 52 different vendors. And again, this is why we do what we do. And again, our pleasure to introduce our community partners to everyone in the community. Well, Howard, thank you so much for being our guest today and really sharing. And again, Howard's info is in the comments. You can reach out to him and he'll make it easy for you. And I know he'll be there for you when you need him. Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Andrea. Really appreciate it.
Okay, remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on SCAN FYI. Bye, everyone, and bye, Howard.